The Galactic Survival Classification Council chamber was exactly what you'd expect from a bunch of aliens who took themselves way too seriously. Crystalline walls that hummed with self-importance, holographic displays floating everywhere like they were showing off, and enough atmospheric regulators to make sure nobody's precious biology got offended by someone else's breathing habits. 12 species sat around the circular table, each one looking smugger than the last. They'd been at this for 3 hours, reviewing the newly discovered planet called Earth, and honestly, they were feeling pretty good about themselves. Vrital, a mantis-like creature whose compound eyes reflected the data streams, clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. Preliminary atmospheric analysis complete. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, stable pressure systems, adequate water coverage. He sounded like he was reading a grocery list. I move we classify this planet as Class 2, moderately survivable. Zeep, who looked like someone had given a squid delusions of grandeur and a translator collar, bobbed her tentacles in agreement. Seconded. The temperature readings show adequate stability. Surface conditions fall well within acceptable parameters for carbon-based life. Honestly, this planet looks downright pleasant. Any objections? Asked Fendris, the council chairman, whose crystalline body refracted light in what he probably thought was an authoritative manner. Silence. Well, except for Kixa's feathers ruffling, but that was just his natural state of existence. Excellent. We shall mark Earth as Class 2 and recommend it for potential colonization by species with moderate environmental adaptability. Moving on to, the chamber doors hissed open. Marcus Chen walked in 20 minutes late, holding a steaming cup of coffee and looking like he'd just rolled out of bed. Which, to be fair, he had. Time zones were a nightmare when you were humanity's representative to a galactic council that insisted on meeting at what was apparently 4 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Sorry I'm late, Marcus said, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was murder. Also, did I just hear you classify Earth as Class 2? Marcus stopped mid-sip, coffee halfway to his mouth, and just stared at the council. Then he started laughing. Not a polite chuckle or a diplomatic throat clear, but full-on, belly-shaking laughter that echoed through the chamber like he'd just heard the universe's best joke. The council members exchanged confused glances. Vrital's antennae twitched nervously. Zeep's tentacles curled inward defensively. I'm sorry, Marcus managed between gasps, wiping his eyes. I'm sorry, it's just, Class 2. Moderately survivable? He dissolved into laughter again, nearly spilling his coffee. Fendris's crystalline structure flickered with irritation. Human Chen, your outburst is highly irregular. Is there a problem with our classification? Problem? No, no problem at all. Marcus set his coffee down and pulled up his own data pad, still grinning like someone had told him Christmas came early. Quick question though, did any of you actually read the weather data? Like, past the first page? Or did you just see, has oxygen and call it a day? Kix ruffled his feathers indignantly. Of course we reviewed the data. Temperature averages, precipitation levels, atmospheric pressure, all within acceptable ranges for Class 2 designation. Averages, Marcus repeated, his grin getting wider and somehow more terrifying. You looked at the averages. Oh, this is going to be fun. He tapped his data pad and a new holographic display erupted in the center of the table. Buckle up, folks. I'm about to explain why Earth isn't Class 2. Earth isn't even close to Class 2. Earth is what happens when the universe decides to create a planet on hard mode and then cranks up the difficulty just for laughs. Let's start with something simple, Marcus said, pulling up a temperature graph that looked like a deranged roller coaster. Temperature. You saw our average global temperature is about 15 degrees Celsius. Nice and moderate, right? Comfortable. Survivable. The council nodded collectively, still not seeing the problem. Now let me show you what that average is hiding. Marcus zoomed in on a specific location. This is a place called Moscow. In summer, temperatures can hit 40 degrees Celsius. In winter, it drops to -40. That's an 80 degrees Celsius swing in the same location within 6 months. There was a long silence. That cannot be correct, Zeep said finally, her translator struggling with the sound she made, which was probably supposed to be disbelief but came out more like existential horror. Your data must be corrupted. Oh, it gets better, Marcus continued cheerfully. That's not even the record holder. In a place called Verkhoyansk, we've recorded temperatures from -68 to +37 Celsius. That's a 105-degree swing. Vrital's mandibles stopped clicking. His entire body had gone very, very still. For comparison, Marcus went on, clearly enjoying himself now, what's the annual temperature variation on your homeworlds? Fendris dimmed slightly. Crystallia maintains a stable range of approximately 3 degrees annually. 3 degrees, Marcus repeated. 3. We have places where the temperature can swing 20 degrees in a single day. We call that Tuesday. Impossible, Kix squawked. No biology could withstand such extremes. Your species would need to migrate constantly, or hibernate, or, we just wear different clothes, Marcus interrupted. Sometimes we complain about it on social media. That's pretty much it. But the heat waves, the cold snaps, Zeep's tentacles were writhing now. Surely these events cause massive casualties. Oh, they're inconvenient, Marcus admitted, taking another sip of coffee. Sometimes the power grid gets stressed. Sometimes we have to actually scrape ice off our vehicles in the morning like barbarians. Sometimes it's too hot to leave your dog in the car. But casualties? We mostly just turn up the air conditioning or the heating and get on with our lives. Vrital made a sound like grinding glass and slumped forward onto the table. Is he okay? Marcus asked, not sounding particularly concerned. He has entered a protective stasis, Fendris said, his glow flickering with what might have been panic. Perhaps we should pause. We haven't even gotten to precipitation yet. Marcus pulled up a new display, this one showing various forms of water in midair. So, precipitation. You guys have rain on your worlds, right? A few tentative nods around the table. Kix spoke up cautiously. Scheduled precipitation events occur on my homeworld every third solar cycle. Gentle misting, predictable patterns. Very reasonable. Scheduled, Marcus said, savoring the word. That's adorable. On Earth, water just falls from the sky whenever it feels like it. Sometimes it's a light drizzle. Sometimes it's a wall of water that dumps 30 centimeters in an hour. We call that a cloudburst, and it's just something that happens on a random Tuesday afternoon. Zeep's tentacles had stopped moving entirely. 30 centimeters. In 1 hour. Of water. Falling. Yep. But wait, there's more. Marcus was definitely enjoying this too much. Sometimes the water freezes before it falls. We call that snow. It piles up, sometimes several meters deep. We have to physically remove it from our pathways just to leave our dwellings. And you survive this, frozen water bombardment? Fendris asked weakly. Survive it? We let our children play in it. We make recreational activities out of sliding down hills on it. Sometimes we shape it into anthropomorphic figures for fun. Marcus swiped to the next image. Then there's hail. That's when ice balls fall from the sky at terminal velocity. They can be the size of your fist. They've been known to dent vehicles and break windows. Your planet throws ice rocks at you. Kix's feathers were standing completely on end now. Sometimes, Marcus shrugged. Oh, and then there's sleet, which is when the sky can't decide between rain and snow, so it does both. Just to keep things interesting. Zeep's voice came out as a strangled whisper. Human Chen, are you describing a death world? Death world? No. I haven't even mentioned thunderstorms yet. He pulled up a video of lightning striking. See, sometimes the clouds get electrically charged and shoot billion-volt plasma bolts at the ground. We call it lightning. Temperatures in the bolt can reach 30,000 degrees Celsius, that's 5 times hotter than the surface of our sun. Just casually arcing through the atmosphere. And the casualties, Zeep started. We have an app that tells us how far away the lightning is, Marcus said. People go outside to watch the show. We take pictures. You're insane, Zeep breathed. Your entire species is certifiably insane. Oh, and sometimes all that rain causes flash floods where water just suddenly appears and sweeps away everything in its path. Whole rivers form in minutes where there wasn't even a stream before. Now let's talk about wind, Marcus said, and several council members visibly flinched. Wind is just atmospheric movement, Kix protested weakly. Standard planetary phenomenon. We have breezes on my world that reach up to 15 kilometers per hour. 15, Marcus said flatly. Okay. We have something called hurricanes. Also known as typhoons or cyclones depending on where they form, because apparently we needed multiple names for the same nightmare. These are rotating storm systems with winds exceeding 300 kilometers per hour. The silence in the chamber was deafening. 300, Fendris repeated, his crystalline structure going completely dark. That's faster than most atmospheric craft. The really fun part is they're enormous. Can be over 1,000 kilometers wide. They just form over the ocean, pick a direction, and go destroy whatever's in their path. We've developed entire warning systems, building codes, and evacuation procedures just to deal with them. They happen every year. Every year, Zeep echoed hollowly. Multiple times a year, actually. We have a season for them. Hurricane season. We name them alphabetically because there are so many we'd get confused otherwise. Marcus pulled up footage of a tornado. But my personal favorite is tornadoes. These are rotating columns of air that touch down from storm clouds. Wind speeds can exceed 400 kilometers per hour. They sound like freight trains. They can pick up entire houses and throw them around like toys. Kix made a sound that the translator refused to interpret. And they're unpredictable, Marcus continued. They can form in minutes. Change direction randomly. We have storm chasers, people who drive toward these things on purpose to study them. For fun, some of them. Then there's dust storms in desert regions, he added casually. Walls of sand and debris several kilometers high, blotting out the sun, coating everything in grit. Sandstorms can strip paint off surfaces. Fendris's glow flickered weakly. Human Chen, why hasn't your species evacuated this planet? Surely with your technology, you could find somewhere more stable? Evacuate Earth? Are you kidding? That's where we keep all our stuff. Marcus wasn't done. He pulled up an image of pure white static. This is called a blizzard. It's when snow falls so heavily and winds blow so hard that you literally cannot see more than a meter in front of your face. We call it whiteout conditions. The temperature drops well below freezing, wind chill can make it feel like -50 degrees, and you can freeze to death in minutes if you're caught outside unprepared. And your population centers during these events? Kix asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We mostly just stay inside and wait it out. Schools close. Some people still go to work. There's always that one guy who insists on driving to the grocery store because we might run out of milk. Marcus swiped to the next image. Then we have monsoons. Seasonal wind patterns that bring months of continuous rainfall. Not gentle rain, torrential downpours that can drop several meters of water over a season. Entire regions flood. Rivers overflow their banks. Sometimes whole villages get submerged. Months, Zeep said weakly. Continuous months of water falling from the sky. Well, yeah. It's actually super important for agriculture in those regions. Farmers depend on it. If the monsoon is late or weak, that's when we have problems. What could possibly be worse than months of flooding? Fenris asked, though he sounded like he immediately regretted the question. Droughts, Marcus said brightly. The opposite problem. Sometimes it just doesn't rain. For months. For years, even. The ground cracks open, vegetation dies, water sources dry up. Temperatures during droughts can exceed 50 degrees Celsius in the shade. And there is no shade because all the plants are dead. He pulled up an image of cracked, parched earth stretching to the horizon. We've had droughts last for decades in some regions. Entire civilizations have collapsed because of them. But we adapt. We build irrigation systems, develop drought-resistant crops, implement water conservation measures. Kixa's feathers were trembling. Human Chen, I must know. What are the survival rates during these extreme weather events? Surely the casualties must be catastrophic. Marcus scratched his chin thoughtfully. I mean, most people survive just fine if they're not doing anything stupid. We've gotten pretty good at predicting and preparing for this stuff. Warning systems, emergency services, building codes designed for specific regional hazards. But here's the thing, he continued with a grin that could only be described as manic. People actually vacation in these conditions. We have ski resorts in blizzard-prone mountains. Beach resorts in hurricane zones. Desert tourism during the hottest months. We have something called storm-chasing tours where you pay money to drive toward tornadoes. You voluntarily enter active disaster zones for recreation, Kix stated. We also have snowboarding, surfing during typhoon swells, and desert marathons, Marcus added. Extreme weather sports are huge business. Now, you're probably thinking, at least these events must be predictable, Marcus said, reading the room with disturbing accuracy. You can plan around them, prepare, know when they're coming. The hopeful looks around the table told him he was right. Yeah, no. Marcus laughed. Weather is fundamentally chaotic. We have an entire scientific discipline called meteorology dedicated to predicting it, and they're wrong constantly. We've got satellites, supercomputers, centuries of data, and the best we can do is educated guessing. Fenris's glow brightened with confusion. But surely you have atmospheric models, predictive algorithms. Oh, we have those, Marcus interrupted. They're great for general trends. But weather operates on something called the butterfly effect. Tiny changes in initial conditions create massive differences in outcomes. A forecast can be accurate 1 day out, maybe 3 days out if we're lucky. A week out? Basically throwing darts blindfolded. So you're telling us, Zeep said slowly, her tentacles curling and uncurling in agitation, that you cannot reliably predict your own planet's atmospheric conditions beyond a few rotations? Correct. We wake up every morning not entirely sure what the sky is going to do to us. Sometimes the forecast says sunny and we get thunderstorms. Sometimes it says light rain and we get a blizzard. We just deal with it. How do you plan anything? Kix demanded. Agriculture, construction, transportation, all of these require atmospheric stability or at least predictability. Marcus shrugged. We plan for contingencies. Build flexibility into our systems. Have backup plans. Sometimes we just reschedule things. Oh, and then there's microclimates, he added, almost as an afterthought. Sometimes weather conditions can be completely different just a few kilometers apart. One side of a mountain range gets rain while the other side is in drought. One neighborhood gets snow while another gets rain. San Francisco has like 40 different microclimates in one city. Your planet has localized atmospheric chaos, Fenris said flatly. We prefer to call it weather variety, Marcus replied cheerfully. Keeps things interesting. You never know what you're going to get. That's not a feature, that's a design flaw, Zeep muttered. The really impressive part, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair like he was just getting started, is where humans choose to live. We don't just survive these conditions, we deliberately build cities in the worst possible places. He pulled up a map dotted with population centers. Phoenix, Arizona, a city of over 4 million people built in a desert where summer temperatures regularly exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Yakutsk, Russia, hundreds of thousands of people living where winter temperatures drop to -60. Singapore, right on the equator, hot and humid year-round, plus monsoons. We looked at these places and said, yeah, this seems fine. But why? Kixa's voice cracked slightly. Why would you intentionally establish population centers in these extreme environments? Sometimes there are resources there. Sometimes it's strategic. Sometimes people just like the challenge. Marcus shrugged. We've got permanent research stations in Antarctica where humans live year-round in conditions that would kill most of you in under an hour. He swiped through images of various human activities. We play football in snowstorms. We have marathons in desert heat. There's a tennis tournament in Australia where play only stops if the court surface literally starts melting. Yes, that's happened. We have outdoor music festivals during hurricane season. You celebrate during active weather emergencies, Zeep said, her voice hollow. We celebrate because of weather sometimes, Marcus corrected. Harvest festivals after monsoons. Winter solstice celebrations in the frozen north. We have a festival in Spain where people throw tomatoes at each other in the summer heat just for fun. Weather doesn't stop us, we incorporate it into our culture. Fendris dimmed to almost nothing. And your offspring? Surely you shelter them from these conditions? Marcus grinned. We send kids outside to play in the snow. They build snow forts, have snowball fights. During summer, they run through sprinklers in the heat. We teach them to swim in oceans with waves and currents. Rain? That's puddle jumping weather. You expose your juveniles to active precipitation events for recreation, Kix said numbly. It builds character, Marcus replied. There was a long moment of silence. Then chaos erupted. This planet must be reclassified immediately, Fendris declared, his crystalline structure pulsing with agitation. Class 9, uninhabitable. No species with any sense of self-preservation would colonize such a world. Wait, hold on, Marcus started. I concur, Kix interrupted, his feathers still standing on end. The atmospheric volatility alone disqualifies it from any survivability classification. The temperature extremes, the violent precipitation, the unpredictable wind phenomena, this is clearly a death world. Death world seems extreme, Marcus protested. We have 8 billion people living there quite comfortably. Comfortable? Zeep's tentacles flailed wildly. You just described a planet that actively tries to kill its inhabitants on a seasonal basis. Your weather is a weapon. Your sky throws ice and fire. Your winds can demolish structures. How is any of that survivable? Because we survive it, Marcus said simply. That's literally the definition of survivable. We're not just clinging to existence, we're thriving. We have art, culture, civilization, technology. We've built all of that despite the weather. Maybe because of it. A smaller council member who hadn't spoken yet, a gelatinous being named Plort, wobbled nervously. Perhaps we need to reconsider our classification metrics. If humans can not only survive but thrive in these conditions, what does that say about our understanding of survivability? It says humans are insane, Zeep muttered. Or highly adaptable, Plort countered. There has to be a classification between moderately survivable and uninhabitable, Fendris said weakly. Here's the thing you're really not going to like, Marcus said, and every council member who was still conscious tensed. Humans complain when the weather is too stable. The silence was absolute. I'm sorry, what? Fendris's glow flickered erratically. Boring weather makes us unhappy. If it's sunny for too many days in a row, we complain. If winter doesn't bring enough snow, we're disappointed. We have entire conversations about how the weather used to be more interesting. We get nostalgic about particularly memorable storms. Marcus pulled up tourism statistics. We have an entire industry built around extreme weather tourism. People pay thousands of credits to visit places specifically during their most dangerous seasons. Tornado alley tours during peak tornado season. Caribbean vacations during hurricane months because the rates are cheaper. Aurora viewing in the Arctic winter when it's -40 outside. The storm chasers I mentioned earlier? They're not all scientists. Some people just drive into active supercells with rotating thunderstorms for the thrill of it. They live stream it. They have competitions for who can get the best footage. Kicks made a sound like air escaping from a balloon. We write songs about weather. We make art inspired by storms. Some of our greatest literature involves characters struggling against the elements. We find it romantic. Romantic, Zeep repeated in a strangled whisper. You find atmospheric violence romantic. Vrital, who had apparently regained consciousness at some point, slumped forward again. Fenris dimmed completely, then brightened with what could only be resignation. New classification. Class 10, humans only. No other known species would survive or want to survive Earth's conditions. The planet is quarantined for human settlement exclusively. We recommend all other species avoid Earth unless absolutely necessary, Kix added weakly. For their own mental and physical well-being. Works for us, Marcus said cheerfully, finishing his coffee. More room for humans anyway. Marcus stood, gathering his data pad and empty coffee cup. Well, if that's everything, I should get going. Got another presentation scheduled for next week. The council stared at him in horrified silence. What's next week's topic? Plord asked, though he sounded like he regretted the question immediately. Marcus paused at the door, grinning. Earth's wildlife. Should be fun, we've got animals that can kill you in about 600 different ways. Oh, and by the way, it's a beautiful day outside back home. Partly cloudy with a chance of thunderstorms. The door hissed shut behind him, leaving the council in stunned silence. Somewhere in the distance, Vrital fainted again.